Hello, DC fans. Today we're going to be closing down the timeline for the DCEU as the final movie has been released, Aquaman 2. So after 10 years, the timeline is ended, and this saga for the DC is over, looking ahead, of course, to the new DCU, which James Gunn will soon be releasing. Now, there will be mild spoilers for pretty much everything in the DCEU, but very, very mild. And in the case of Aquaman 2, when I get to the one thing that is a very minor spoiler, I will give you a warning in case you want to jump to the next chapter at that point. So, without further ado, let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Now, don't forget, we do have the December contest running all month long. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment. One random winner will be announced on a video in early January and can choose from one of the books or steel books above. Or, if you would probably, I suspect, like something DC related, I will be happy to substitute for that instead. Also, we have the new membership option in case you want to support the channel in that fashion. But remember, anything you do to support is wonderful. Leaving comments, liking videos, subscribing, etc. goes a long way. So thank you so much. Okay, do have to do a big shout out up front to the DCEU/DCU fandom wiki. It is awesome. Go check it out if you've never seen it. It has a lot more details than what I'm going through in this video, and I couldn't have done this without the fantastic work they've done on that. So kudos to you guys. Okay, we're going to start, of course, in timeline order. So that would start with Wonder Woman, the first movie timeline-wise in the DCEU. So Steve Trevor in that movie says that the war, referring to World War I, has been going on for 4 years across 27 countries with 25 million dead. So World War I was from 1914 to November of 1918. That was when armistice was signed. So, and this is just a little bit before that. So seems pretty safe to place this in November of 1918. All right, great. Then actually, the next thing is the only one-shot, at least that I'm aware of, that was ever released, similar to the one-shots that Marvel did. This one was called Etta's Mission, and it dealt with Etta setting up a mission to go find one of the mother boxes, which does indeed play into, obviously, Justice League down the road. So it's a very important one-shot. And she mentions it's been 3 weeks since the Wonder Woman movie, so that would place it in December of 1918. And I didn't really know what to use for a picture for that, so I hope that makes it clear that this is the one-shot. All right, next we have Wonder Woman 84. Pretty obvious, happens right in 1984, and then they give us massive clue when they tell us that it's also happening during the July 4th celebrations of 1984. So this one's easy, July of 1984. All right, then we finally get to the first movie that was released from a release date standpoint, not a timeline standpoint, obviously, but a release date standpoint, and that was Man of Steel. All right, so we see, you can see in the upper left-hand corner there, a date for when NASA retrieved some of the energy data. This was a little bit before the movie itself started, but it gives us a June of 2013 date, so we therefore know we're in 2013 for sure. Then, when the movie is actually happening, Lois Lane, we get a good look at her camera. You got to kind of look closely, but you can see a date in November, once again, of 2013. However, there's at least one frame that then shows a much closer view, and you can see a September of 2013. So which of these do we use? Well, the DCEU wiki uses the November one, and we'll talk a little bit more about why as we look at Batman v Superman. But I'm going to go with September because in the Flash movie, which I know we're not even close to getting to that yet, but it's important to discuss it at this point. So he goes back in time to 2004. Then he goes forward in time trying to get back to when the movie occurs and instead gets knocked out of his little time tunnel in 2013. So, same time Man of Steel is happening, right? And he even says, tonight, September 29th, the accident that gives me my powers. Well, the next thing that happens is Zod's message is heard. And Barry doesn't say anything like, oh wait, this isn't how it worked the first time around. He seems to have expected Zod to have made his big message, and he even says, I had just gotten my powers. So, I mean, yes, he could have messed up the timeline, and I definitely get that, but his memory of the timeline was that this was all still correct. So I'm going to go with the September date. Tell me what you think in the comments, but it seems to me like that September date, which was much bigger on screen as well, and very easy to read, makes more sense because he's saying, that's when Zod came and started destroying Metropolis, so I just went there to help out. I do like the fact that's kind of cool that his origin is kind of tied to the first Superman movie as well. But anyway, I'm going to therefore go with September to October of 2013. Let me know if you disagree, because that one is a little bit controversial. But anyway, that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, then we have Batman v Superman, which brings in Wonder Woman and also Superman from his movie and, of course, introduction of Batman. Okay, so they show us a flashback to Man of Steel, and then they tell us it's 18 months later. So we jump forward 18 months. Then kryptonite is found under the Indian Ocean, and they tell us that was 3 months ago. So seemingly we've now jumped 21 months since Man of Steel. However, it must be a little bit more than that because Batman, Bruce Wayne, says that the war Superman brought to us was 2 years ago. So it's been a solid 2 years, not 21 months. Additionally, they tell us that the event that they're going to is on November 1st, and they make that really prominent, so you can clearly see November 1st. Okay, so, and then I guess it's worth mentioning that Wonder Woman says, 100 years ago, I walked away from mankind. So we have several timeline things to deal with here. So what do we do with this? Well, I'm going to go with November of 2015, because they pretty much told us really prominently November. That is 2 years after Man of Steel, which is in September to October, and it is about 100 years after the first Wonder Woman in 1918. Really 97 technically, but who says 97, right? You're just going to say 100. So I think that all works really well. So I'm going to go with that, November of 2015. Again, leave it down in the comments if anything you disagree with. So next we have Suicide Squad. Now, Suicide Squad features Bruce Wayne showing up, also with Amanda Waller, but most importantly, Bruce Wayne. So we can therefore draw the connection from Batman v Superman, because that's his next appearance. Then in the movie, we see some files near the beginning that Amanda Waller has printed, and it seems like they must have been created prior to the beginning of the movie, because it says June of 2016, but a little bit later in the movie, definitely during the main events of the movie, we see Rick Flag's cell phone, and it has an August date on it. So if we go with the 2016 and we go with August, we can put a pretty good idea of sticking Suicide Squad in August of 2016. All right, great. Then we have Justice League. So Justice League brings in, the entire Justice League. Obviously, it's the next appearance of Batman and of Wonder Woman, etc. But the biggest question is, which do we go with? Do we go with Justice League, or do we go with Zack Snyder's longer cut, obviously, of the Justice League? Well, I'm once again going to talk about The Flash. Flash is a really important movie in the DCEU, and The Flash canonizes, seemingly, the scenes from the Snyderverse with Iris West, because they talk about it feels like we saw each other like a few years ago, right? So that's referring to a scene that is only in the Snyder Cut. Likewise, we see literally some scenes, some of the fight scenes and some other Aquaman pointing and some other scenes that are only in the Snyder Cut. So I'm going to say the Snyder Cut is canon. And when I asked that question recently on my last DC video, overwhelmingly, people said they felt the same, that this has canonized the Snyder Cut. There's a few small issues, continuity-wise, that don't make Snyder Cut work as well as the Justice League, but for the most part, it seems like The Flash is canonizing. That's the one that is part of the DCEU. So let me know what you think about that, right? Okay. Now, we learned in the movie that a mother box was activated more than a year ago, and as Barry Allen says, it was when Superman was still alive. So we know it's been at least a year after Batman v Superman, more than a year, in fact. More importantly, they do, in the Snyder Cut, give us a date, and I don't know how people were able to get this. Thank you, DCEU Wiki, right? Because they were able to zoom and enhance in the upper right corner, and it gives us the date of July of 2017. It looks like July 25th, but most importantly, July of 2017. Okay, we're going to go with that then. That works for me. So July of 2017 for the movie. That puts us more than a year since Batman v Superman, because that's important, and then lands us soundly in 2017. And of course, it's got to be after Suicide Squad, and because it is in July, that again pushes us to 2017. All right, Aquaman. So what do we learn about Aquaman? Well, we know it's after Justice League because they make a reference to Steppenwolf and saving Atlantis, etc. So that's helpful. We know it's after that. And Justice League, of course, was in July of 2017. Then, this is pretty obscure, but lower left-hand corner, you can see the 6 and the 1. That is a June 1st date. Well, if it's in June, and Justice League was in July of 2017, it's got to at least be 2018. That's also when the movie came out. They don't give us a year, so I'm just going to go with July of 2018. We also see Jimmy Woo. That makes me so happy. I know, he's not Jimmy Woo. He's Stephen Shin in this movie, but Randall Park is incredible. Whenever we get a Randall Park sighting, I'm a happy camper. And that's cool because that means he was in both DCEU and MCU in small supporting roles. And we'll see him again, by the way, in Aquaman 2. He makes an appearance. So anyway, got to call him out. I love it. All right, so we're going to go with May to June of 2018 because it starts a little bit before that June 1st date. So that works really well. All right, Shazam. What do we know about the first Shazam movie? Well, we get a headless Superman. So this was back in the day when they couldn't decide, is Henry Cavill back? Is he not back? Etc. So, oy vey. Nonetheless, there's Superman. So we know this is after the Justice League, therefore. So that's helpful. Then, in the movie, though, they really make it clear when this is happening. If you look at all these dates of when these videos were released, over on the left, you can see December of 9th in particular, but of 2018. And then on the next screen full, we see more December 10th, 2018. So they're making it really, really clear that these videos, when he was learning how to use his powers, tell us it was December of 2018. So boom, that's easy, right? And it works because it's after Justice League when Superman was obviously brought back to life. All right, then we have Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I don't know whether this is officially canon to the DCEU, but it's worth at least mentioning because it's kind of cool. Because, of course, we get the DCEU's Flash meeting CW's Flash during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it's important because this seems to be where Ezra Miller's version of the Flash gets his nickname. You know, the Flash gets his nickname. So, okay, if that's the case, then this kind of has to be canon to the DCEU. When does it happen? Who knows, right? Because when does it happen in the DCU's timeline? When does it happen versus the CW's timeline? I don't even want to get into the CW's timeline. That thing is crazy. Maybe one day. But I'm just going to go with when it came out, which is January 2020, to put something down, right? And that is when the DCEU wiki goes as well. So we'll go with that. All right, next we have Birds of Prey. And that is the next appearance of Harley Quinn. So we get our connection there with Suicide Squad. And in the movie, we learn that it's definitely after Suicide Squad because her relationship with Joker is over. It's come to an end. So that's helpful. But that's the only thing they give us. They give us nothing else of any help whatsoever to figure out when this movie happens. So I don't like doing this, but it was released in February of 2020. So when you have no other clues, you just go with when it was released. I really hate that. But the wiki does it as well, so I don't feel too bad doing it. Okay, so we're going to go with February of 2020 for Birds of Prey. All right, next we have The Suicide Squad, which is the next appearance of Harley Quinn. So a lot of Harley Quinn appearances there in a row. And what do we learn about it? Well, during her torture, the executioner is chatting text messages, and it's really hard to see. So I'm going to zoom in some more, but it's still kind of hard to see because it's so light. But the date on his phone, when translated to English, is Monday, August 17th of 2020. Now, James Gunn made it sound like the movie happens when it came out, which was obviously not August of 2020, but I don't know. James Gunn tweets some random stuff sometimes, so I guess unless he specifically says it is not when this date in the movie occurs, then I'm going to go with the date in the movie. But let me know what you think if you disagree. But I'm going to go with August, therefore, of 2020. Okay, so next we have Peacemaker. Now, Peacemaker is the next appearance of, well, Peacemaker from the Suicide Squad, but also Waller and many of her crew appear in the show. And then who else appears? Well, we get 4 of the Justice League, which is pretty awesome. Now, Superman and Wonder Woman are body doubles, but we actually do get Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa. So kudos to them for showing up for Gunn. That's great. So that means we can draw some connections. We can bring in all of them from their latest appearances. So that's awesome. So what do we learn about the timing of Peacemaker? Well, this is a nice, helpful thing at the beginning when Peacemaker says that he was in the hospital for 5 months. When he says, I was laid out for like 5 months. Okay, we're going to take him literally since we have pretty much no other info to go off of. So we're going to put it 5 months after the Suicide Squad. So that makes it January of 2021. All right, Black Adam. What do we learn in Black Adam? Well, such a bummer. We got Henry Cavill back again as Superman. That was so exciting to think we're going to get a battle down the road between his Superman and Black Adam, only for that all to go away. But nonetheless, it is an official Superman appearance. No headless Superman this time. And so that means we do have the connection with Superman's last appearance in Peacemaker. Okay, so what do we know about when this thing happens? Oh boy, not much. Not much at all. There is a Black Adam Easter egg. If you look on the newspaper underneath Gorilla Still Missing, you can see a mention of Intergang taking control of the nation of Kahndaq. So presumably that means that this is a little bit, that Peacemaker is a little bit before the events of Black Adam. Probably not too much, but a little bit before. Okay, and then also we need enough time at least for Harcourt to have healed up from her injuries that she had during Peacemaker, because she obviously shows up and seems to be walking okay, seems to be pretty fully recovered. Okay, so I'm going to go with April to May of 2021 just to move it a few months forward. That's also what the wiki goes with, so I think that makes sense. All right, now let's look at Shazam, Fury of the Gods. So first we'll look at some of the cameos and guest appearances in the movie. So we have Harcourt and Economos. They have a nice guest cameo. And we have Wonder Woman, epic cameo in the movie. So that means we could draw connections between Black Adam for Harcourt and Economos and from Peacemaker for Wonder Woman. So when does this movie happen? Okay, so we know that Freddy's phone pic has the Shazam family there, and it shows Monday, May 29th. So May, or late May, in fact. And David Sandberg did a tweet where he said, it's funny how Shazam 1 was a Christmas movie released in April, and Shazam 2 is a summer movie getting released at Christmas. It's the Shazam way. Well, technically May is not summer, but it's close enough. So yeah, this is confirming the movie is happening in May. Awesome. Here's what's confusing, though. So we get this tweet about a DC Fandom event where Zachary Levi spoke, and of course it's not in English, but Google Translate to the rescue. So when we translate it, we learn that Zachary Levi confirmed that Shazam 2, Fear of the Gods, takes place 2 years after the first film. Billy Batson was 15 in the first film, now he will be 17 in the sequel. Okay, that works for me. I'm fine with that. There's one problem, though. Zachary Levi is not correct. Billy Batson, his character, was not 15 in the first movie. He was basically 15. So in the first Shazam movie, where he's talking to Dr. Sivana, he says, I'm basically 15. And in fact, it's also confirmed earlier that he's 14, right? Because he says, I mean, Billy, you're 14. So we've got to ignore Zachary Levi and ignore the 2 years for now. It's going to be longer than that, we're going to see, because he got the ages wrong. But we do know, at least, that he's 14 in the first Shazam movie, which was in December of 2018. So what else do we know? Well, we know that he turns 18 in 5 months, and this is a line from the second movie, from Fear of the Gods, because Mary says you turn 18 in 5 months. Okay, I think we can work with all this. So let's put it all together. In the first Shazam movie, which was in December of 2018, he's 14. In the second Shazam movie, which is in May of some year to be determined, we know that he will turn 18 in 5 months. Well, 5 months from May means that his birthday is in late October or early November. So we're just going to go with November. So when would he turn 18 if he was 14 in December of 2018? Well, he would turn 18 in November of 2022. So therefore, we know that the movie occurs in May of 2022. Whew, that's fun, huh? So a little more than 2 years. So actually a little more than 3 years. So yeah, Zachary Levi was off a bit, but we can show some grace. Plus, he might have been confused by this line because Dr. Savannah, who of course appeared in the first movie, has been in jail for 2 years since meeting Mr. Mind. So, in fact, he's angry at Mr. Mind, saying, I've been in here for 2 years. So you can see why people might have thought there was only 2 years between the two movies. But keep in mind, court dates take a while, trials take a long time. He probably didn't formally get sentenced to wherever he's at here until quite some time after the first movie. Thus, he's been in jail for 2 years, but he didn't go into jail right afterwards. So that doesn't mean there's only 2 years between the two movies. So that's twice we had these hints that it was 2 years. It is not 2 years. The movie is May of 2022, so it's a little over 3 years, but that works because, again, Dr. Savannah was in jail probably then in May of 2020 is when he would have gone to jail. Okay, that works. Whew. Flash. How about the Flash? So Flash, I really enjoy this. I wish the MCU actually did a little more of this. Flash brings us up to speed on everybody. Where are they all at? Now, Superman makes an appearance, granted from afar. That was CGI and not really him, but still, we see him. We get an awesome cameo from Batman. That was very good. Loved that. And then, of course, anytime Wonder Woman shows up, I'm a happy camper. Love Wonder Woman. And then Aquaman might not remember his cameo, but he did cameo in the movie in a post-credit scene, little drunk, but he was in it. So, yeah, I love the fact they draw everybody together. So we get Batman, who actually has not shown up in a movie since Justice League. Isn't that wild? He had a ton of post-credit scenes that were supposed to be in all these different movies that kept getting scrubbed. So, yeah, the last time he's appeared is Justice League. He's been mentioned by name, but not appeared. So that's pretty crazy. Then we have Wonder Woman, last seen in Shazam. We have Superman, last seen in Black Adam. And, of course, Flash and Aquaman, last seen in Peacemaker. Wow. Love that. Love that. Brought everything together. Okay, so when does this thing happen? Well, the birth date for some of the babies is September. This one's a little hard to read. The third line does have September, but hold on to the thought because this one is really clear. You can see September on the third line, so we know the movie is occurring in September. Okay, great. Well, what else can we learn? Well, we know from a security camera that Nora Allen, Barry's mom, dies in 2004. You can see it down there, in particularly June of 2004. So when he goes back in time to see his mom, he says, "How was your last month or your last 18 years?" And, of course, he shouldn't have said that because she's like, what? But 2004 plus 18 gets us to 2022, and then we know the movie was occurring in September because of the babies. So we can go with September of 2022. Very nice. So that one places itself very clearly. Love it. Love it. But what do we do about Batman? So I've had a couple of people say, well, now you need to pull Michael Keaton's Batman movies, at least the first two, into the DCEU timeline. I would agree if then the Flash hadn't gone and reversed it all. Because, right? First he goes back in time and then accidentally pulls in the Batman chronology because it wasn't in the DCEU. Then he goes back and still messes with that security, with the security footage enough so that they could clear his dad's name, right? And that wiped it back out again. So yes, Batman and Batman Returns were part of the DCEU, and then they weren't. This guy's part of the DCEU. Oh my. So here's what's really funny is technically that means Ben Affleck was never Batman, I guess, right? And that means George Clooney has always been the Batman for the DCEU? Oy vey. Does that mean Batman and Robin is canon? I don't know. I mean, obviously the whole thing was meant as a joke. It was very clever. I'm not going to take it too far. So I'm not going to include Batman and Robin. I don't know whether this means Ben Affleck's Batman never occurred. I don't know what it means. Obviously, what would have happened had they continued with the DCEU is he would have found Batman somewhere and brought him, Ben Affleck's Batman, and brought him back into continuity. So, I don't know. We're going to leave it all as is. I'm not changing anything. But technically, maybe Batman and Robin is continuity at this point. Oh, such a terrible Batman movie. All right. Finally, we get to Aquaman, the Lost Kingdom. Don't worry, no spoilers yet. This was actually in the trailer, of all things. It's just one small little timeline hint they give us that's very helpful, that the movie is 4 years after the first movie. Because he says, 4 years ago, I was basically unemployed, a wanderer with no home. And then he describes kind of summarizes the events of the first movie. So that places it 4 years ago. Now, then I don't have this screenshot because, you can't capture them yet from the movie, but it then jumps forward 5 months. I won't go into any details on why, but there clearly is a graphic saying 5 months later at one point. So that means it's 4 years and 5 months later. Okay, if that's the case, then if it's 4 years and 5 months from the first Aquaman movie in June, that would put us in November 2022, which is interesting because that would put us after the Flash movie. And remember, Aquaman did show up in the Flash movie, so this would mean Aquaman 2, I guess, from a timeline standpoint, is his appearance is after his appearance in the Flash. Isn't that interesting? Now, you've also got the fact that the Flash kind of reset everything, so I don't know anymore, right? We just don't know. I don't know if they'll ever try to explain it because it's closing down. They're closing shop on all this. Tell me what you think in the comments all this means. But technically speaking, Aquaman is after Flash, so very interesting. Okay, I'm going to mention a little tiny thing about the post-credit scene. So if you don't want to hear that because you haven't seen Aquaman 2 yet, now would be a chance to just click to the next chapter so you don't have to hear this. So I'm assuming that you've done it now. Okay, great. So for those that want to see it, the post-credit scene was very disappointing. There's only one, and it was a joke, which is fine. I don't mind a jokey one, but it was just to think that this is the last scene of the DCEU. It's Orm eating a sandwich. Oh, but it's even worse. They do a callback to a joke earlier where he ends up being tricked into eating a cockroach and thought it tasted pretty good. Well, he puts a cockroach in the sandwich and eats it. So, yeah, not the way I would have liked the DCEU to end with Orm eating a cockroach sandwich. But nonetheless, this may or may not be considered the official final scene of the DCEU. Oy vey. But the reason I say it may not be, we do still have something else to discuss, and that is Blue Beetle. So what do we do with Blue Beetle? Well, let's talk about connections first. In the movie, we get a Superman and a Flash reference because he says like Superman in Metropolis or the Flash in Central City when they're talking about different superheroes that are around. And we get a Batman reference. He says, look at all this stuff. It's like Batman stuff. He's real impressed with all the tech. Now, they very cleverly do not tell us which Batman, which Superman, or which Flash. But I like the fact they wanted the world to feel lived in. And so, they mention all those heroes. So does that mean this is still the DCEU or not? I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. So for now, I'm going to draw like a dotted line connection because James Gunn has said that the Blue Beetle will show up in the new DCU, but he's also made it crystal clear that Superman Legacy is the first movie of the DCU, which means Blue Beetle is not. So I guess if you kind of parse his words a little bit, what he's basically saying is, I'm going to use the Blue Beetle character, hopefully the same actors, because I really liked the movie, but I'm not bound to the story. If I go a different direction with the story and we totally redo it, so be it. Okay, what about from a timeline standpoint? Well, we do know that he's just graduated from college. We're celebrating the first Reyes to graduate from college. So, Jaime has graduated. That's awesome. We don't know much more. They do not give us any hint as to when this movie is happening continuity-wise. So I am interested in your thoughts and theories on this. The rule of thumb I've been using is if they don't tell us, we use the year it came out. So that would put us in June of 2023. Okay, is that when? I don't know. So that means that because I do think it's still part of the DCEU, because it is not part of the DCU, so I want it to be somewhere. So I'm going to put it here as though it's still part of this, the DCEU timeline. What do you think? We could go with June of 2022, because we don't know either way, which would place it before The Flash, and I'd be fine with that. But I'd kind of rather eating a cockroach not be the last scene in the DCEU. But then I guess this would be the last scene. So this was the second post-credit in Blue Beetle. We can't win, can we? I would still prefer this over eating a cockroach. So I'm going to stick with 2023. Tell me what you think. I would love your feedback on this. Here you go. This is the timeline. This is the whole timeline. It is, there are elements of it which are fantastic. They make it crystal clear when stuff happens. There's other times when you just have to guess. So, as I've said, and when I tried this earlier, the timeline, I tried. I've done my best. Please be brutal. Tell me what you don't agree with. I'd love your feedback. And by the way, go see Aquaman 2. It's a good movie. I may do a review of it if you're interested. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do an actual, full review of the movie. I would say it was as good as Blue Beetle, basically as good as The Flash. Yeah, it's worth seeing. It's enjoyable. It's nothing special. It's nothing new, but it's enjoyable. But let me know if you'd like me to do a full review. All right, so also, don't forget we do have the December contest. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You might win a book or a steel book or something DC related if you prefer. And of course, we have the new membership option if you're interested in that. Also, we do have the Discord server. And here I am actually commenting on the fact that I'm there at the theater going to see the movie. Good movie. Went to see the end of an era. But if you'd like to join the Discord server, we'd love to have you comment, share your thoughts. Over 1,000 members from across the globe. Always a conversation going 24/7. All right. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all eagerly await James Gunn's new DCU.